name is Daisy Kandole. I'm going to be guiding the discussion we're having with you. Allow me to apologize for the delay. We were supposed to begin, I think, about an hour ago, but due to unavoidable circumstances, we had to start an hour late. But nevertheless, we are glad to be here. Joined by an amazing panel of young people, energetic, ready to put it all out there. I'm going to give them a chance to introduce themselves before we can actually dive into the discussion about why we're here today. I'll start with the beautiful lady in red. Please go and tell the people who you are.
Hi everyone, my name is Nicole Musime. I'm an advocate for girls and children. I volunteered with the Reproductive Health Uganda. I volunteered with Mastercard, Black Uganda, and it's a pleasure to be here. And thank you.
Thank you for joining us, Nicole. I'm going to skip the lady in the pants and let the gentleman have the floor, since it's the only gentleman we have on the panel. Yes, please introduce yourself. Tell us who you are and what you do.
My name is Mugita Robert. I'm a youth inclusion activist. I work in SRHR Uganda.
Lovely to have you, Original. It's always amazing to hear you speak on different platforms. I think you have so much to bring to the conversation, so much to add to the table. So we're looking forward to hearing from you. Yes, the beautiful lady in blue and black, the floor is yours. Tell us, who are you and what do you do?
My name is Ruth Namtevi Elizabeth. I am a peer educator with Reach a Hand Uganda.
You're welcome, Ruth.
Thank you.
Eager to hear from you and learn from you as well.
Me too.
Yes, and last but not least, you have the floor, madam.
Hi everyone, Lynette Valentina, the peer educator in Reproductive Health Uganda.
You're welcome, Lynette. Amazing to have you on the panel. To everyone who is watching us via YouTube, Chat Plug Media, thank you so much for taking time off and being patient with us to actually join into the discussion as we plan to celebrate, or should I say as we are celebrating the International Youth Day that's happening in a couple of days. Today we are here at Next Media, as you can see, and we're here for the third Regional Youth E-Conference on Sexual Reproductive Health, Economic Empowerment and Environment. And this year, the theme is promoting youth innovations to transform food systems and human health amidst the COVID-19 pandemic. Reproductive Health Uganda has had a conference of this nature for the past 3 years, and this year it's the third time we're gathered to sort of celebrate youth and make sure that we're talking and speaking on issues that actually affect them directly, but also coming up with ways that we can improve their welfare. And as a side event, we decided to do a little something for the young people and sort of have a youth cafe where we can, come and gist about issues that have to do with young people. As we look forward to the International Youth Day, where we can sort of add our voices to the conversation. So, today, I want us to just have a casual and informative discussion about sexual reproductive health and rights. And I know that we've had these conversations over and over and over again, but I think the point is continuous discussion. Because amidst the pandemic, so many challenges have come up. So many challenges that have affected young people's sexual reproductive health and rights. So the more we discuss these issues, the more we leave room to create more better interventions in order to remedy the challenges. And I think we can all agree on that. So, before that, please follow the conversation on Twitter using the hashtag YouthDayUG and the hashtag Regional Youth Conf2. That is Regional Youth CONF2 without a space. We're glad to be here. So, I'd like to dive into the discussion, and I want to start with you, Nicole. As we were getting geared up on this event, you said that we asked you guys for thoughts, right? And one of the questions you said is, I believe we are a product of our choices, but for those without a choice, we are your choice. And I found that rather intriguing, Could you just throw more light on what exactly your thought means, just so that can give us an icebreaker for the discussion?
Yeah, actually, I just woke up one day and I found myself coming up with that as a coach. And yeah, it just gets us to very many primarily reasons as why some things get to happen. Yeah, and most of the time we do not have to blame the people that something has happened to. Let me give you an example of a teenage pregnancy. Yeah, we are all very amazed and very into almost all these things because the numbers have really skyrocketed so high. So yeah, so why do I actually have to keep having the same thing going on as choices everywhere? So I am an advocate and I'm growing to that because yeah, as I was growing up, I actually met a mentor, Humphrey, the CEO, Richard Uganda. He was a mentor who took me step by step around this. So that means me having such an opportunity, I was and I will always be responsible for the choices I make. But how about this girl who is very far in a remote area? Or else even when she's not actually far, but she is living in a prison of violence every single day. So I, who got a chance to get a mentor, I have a choice. But then at the same time, as my mentor Humphrey was always keeping me going up, he told me the best service you can ever have to the world is to see someone happy, is to see someone smile. So that is how I become this person's story. So yeah, ideally that is the reason as to why I never keep quiet. When I see something, I have to always look for a way out. When I see that these young people don't know what is going on, it is my duty to go and educate them about it. Yeah, actually me and Bruce have heard of that adult. We moved. Right now there's a campaign called Master and Rapper. So we have the audacity to go out and educate them because we have been given the education. So that is how we become the choice. And I urge every single youth out there, do not keep quiet. When you know something that is going on, just because they don't know what to do doesn't make them dance. They are just ignorant. But it's your very, very own job to make them understand. And when you help them, at the end of it, we are just going to have a mesh of very many young people that have information and can be able to always refer it to other people. That is how we grow. You don't have to be selfish with any kind of knowledge you have. You just have to spread it, spread the love, spread the information, and at the end of it all, we are really going to have a very big number of young people who know stuff. Because believe me, what we are doing right now is called the damage control. Because the truth is, when the whole country was at a state of lockdown, young people's bodies were not locked with them. Now, these are young people who do not know what menstruation means, young people who do not know what happens with body change, and young people who are living in a very, very, disadvantaged families that they cannot afford to buy a pack of pads, 3,000. And the man is going to be like, sleep with me and I'll give you the pad. The money for the pads, and when she comes back, she's already pregnant, she has SRHR, and most likely they think it's an STI. So at the end of it all, you realize that you cannot help yourself. Yeah, so that is why it is our job, all of us. It's our duty. If you know, if you know how to make sanitary pads, and you are living in an environment where you see that that is the problem, it doesn't take anything from you when you just pass on the skill, pass on the skill, pass on the skill, and at the end of it all, I do not need, to be put on TV that, oh my God, oh, she did this. No, that is enough. And that is why we cannot give up the fact.
People, you put across so many interesting points, and you speak on each and every person taking responsibility and taking it upon themselves to make sure that they add to helping the young person or adding to the voice and adding to the power of young people. And I'd like to come to you, Original. We do know that a young person living with a disability, but disability is never inability, which is why you take time to do what Nicola said. Use your voice to empower the young person. But I want to know from you, we're living in a time of COVID-19. The pandemic has been happening for like what, the past 2 years now. As a young person living with disability, how has the pandemic affected your sexual reproductive health and rights?
I can tell that for activities with audition, we are usually to you. You are first timing, but for that, we are first double timing. Because most of the younger people living with audition, we don't have to take of esteem. They are not financially stable because I know because the many of them they are depending from many of them they are dependent they depend on someone for support. For example, those with the visual impairment and those on wheelchairs. They need someone to be on them, like assisting them, and yet there is social distancing. How can you create social distancing? And yet you need some support. That is the challenge. Another challenge is about accessing drugs. Some of them they are accessing drugs from like children with HIV. They are accessing cheap drugs from public health centers, which are far away from the where they are staying, and yet when the lockdown came on, they were banning your public means, like border taxes, and rich people cannot go to public service, public health service, and yet you need come to relief our the community was targeting vulnerable people. Even in here, like the happen to the hand. But you only unpack about vulnerable. You with people with disabilities, especially you. They are not beating. They brought about the border men, taxi driver, and yet the border men, they were given the permission to carry this. They were earning, instead of earning, they added them another money. And that money, we are speaking that money which are being given to youth with disabilities to push them. They get access to medical care. Medical services from political certificates near them, or sending someone to buy for them.
Thank you so much, Original. And I think you've brought out a number of issues that we shall dig deep into as the conversation goes on. Issues that even have to do with mental health, which is an important conversation that we need to be having, but that is shoved to the back a lot in our country. I mean, we speak, but we don't act.
Yeah.
So I think that's a conversation that we need to revisit. I'd like to come to you, Ruth. You're a peer educator, you say. And I believe as a peer educator, or should I say as peer educators, we tend to interact with a diversity of young people. We get to understand their challenges, we get to empathize and sort of see what they're going through, but also speaking as a young person. I believe Original has spoken on a number of issues, and some of them cut across for all young people. But I'd just love for you to add your voice. As a peer educator, over the past couple of years when we've been having the pandemic, what key issues are you seeing that have arisen? What key SRHR issues are you seeing that are really affecting young people? And also, do you see a change between when we had the first outbreak and now? Do you think we are doing enough? Do you think something is being done? Do you think that our stakeholders are sort of taking charge of the situation and trying to, come in and remedy those challenges?
Oh yes. Thank you very much for that question. Yeah, I feel like we, including the NGOs, the communities themselves, and then our leaders, the politicians, I feel that we were more prepared for the second wave, for the second lockdown, than the first one. We knew our way around. We knew how we needed to get things done. But of course, you cannot forget that there are those people who didn't know how to get anything done. For instance, I can say one of the challenges that I know we are facing as young adults in relationship to sexual reproductive health and rights is that you find a young teenager, HIV positive like me, and they are struggling to access ARVs during lockdown. And during this recent lockdown, when it had just kicked off, I remember there were police roadblocks where they were asking people to give the reason as to why they were leaving home to move. Now, in a scenario where I am going to hospital to pick my ARVs, I am forced to disclose my status, which is something I don't want to do. So it's more of like violating also human rights, our health rights. How about the government would have given us maybe a week or two to prepare before we go into lockdown, rather than just snap a finger and then boom, we're in a lockdown. How about before we go in a lockdown, if much as we give out condoms for free, we can also give out pads for free, because we all know NBS has been showing these special stories. I mean, from Kanare Mugume, where people are giving, the young adults are giving sex for pads, and then the one from yesterday for Daniel Lutaya, where children are being trafficked, from Karamoja. They're taking shortcuts, to go make money because, things are tough. And then the question remains, after you have crossed over from one place to another as a trafficked child, for the female, how are you going to deal with the issue of, you need sanitary towels in a situation where you're raped, in a situation where you need medication? So we need to pay attention to the small details. It's not always the big things that really do matter. And maybe to add to Original, he spoke about the fact that people living with disability are facing a double challenge. And it's even worse if you're living with a disability, at the same time, let's say you're living with HIV, at the same time you're coming from a vulnerable family, like literally all the guns are pointed to you and you don't know what to do. So we can keep doing this, year in, year out, month in, month out, keep talking about these issues, keep, putting flyers out on social media, complaining, telling the government to make a change and this and that. But it comes down to one thing. We need to act. We need to speak less and let's act. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Ruth. I think you make a very valid point there. And you've spoken...
I would love to actually add into something.
Okay, please, go ahead.
You see, when she talked about the double, triple challenge that is happening, the Miss Y class that these guys have, actually she has been trying to move and actually go try to find her fellow friends' medication, their IRVs, but on very many occasions she was always stopped. Like, they would not let her go. She's doing something for free, and at the same time being put in a situation where she feels like, why should I be able to do this? Why? Actually, this sounds offensive, but then that is the truth. Fact finders like me and her and them, we are very few. And we actually find a problem that we are always able to go out there and dig up all these evidences and stuff, but no one ever wants to take them on. Then at the end of it all, you're going to see a CBO and an NGO coming up with a kind of campaign of something that is literally not what the society needs, but it is just what they think they deserve. And how that's coming? Over-promising, under-deliver. That is the one biggest challenge we have got. Yeah. And it needs to be worked on.
I hear you.
Daisy,
Yes,
I'm so
Ruth.
sorry, but
It's
she
okay.
has just ticked off another thing I had forgotten to mention. Do you realize that people living with HIV do not, let's say I'm staying in Kampala, I can't access my ARVs from Kampala because of fear of stigma, people pointing fingers at me and all that. I will go as far as picking my ARVs from a hospital somewhere in Kampala. And then before you know it, lockdown comes. You're not prepared. You only have drugs for 1 month. What are you going to do? Now, if it is not for us, the activists that are out there, the peer educators who have utilized social media to, put out a voice and make people understand that I am here in case you need help, people have not access ARVs. I mean, I do remember during the first lockdown, I spent all of it trying to connect people to hospitals that could provide them with ARVs, and it was just by a press of a button on social media. I look for someone who is willing to deliver them for free, and I look for the person who needs those services for free. People die in their movies. They don't want to speak out, just like she said. They don't want to speak out. You're facing a challenge. You don't have ARVs. We're in lockdown. You're lacking food. But you did rather die in your movie than speak out. So yeah, much as the lockdown was brought about to save us from transmitting the illness even further, we also need to put in mind that there are people who have illnesses they are not willing to disclose. So we need to at least let the activists do the movement or find that, I mean, if we can deliver, we have so many companies that deliver food. Why can't we have hospitals, put in place a system that delivers drugs to people who are living far, for people who don't want to be known, for people who don't want to be, their status being disclosed to the public. We can put in place such things, but we need the support of the government. We can't do this alone. We need the support of the NGOs. They cannot handle these expenses on their own. It is us, the peer educators, who are in the system, who help. You take off time, you decide I'm going to deliver drugs. Now, when you find a roadblock, you get demoralized. Definitely.
Yeah. I hear you. I hear you. I think you all make valid points. Allow me say that you guys are doing amazing work. I mean, as a fellow peer educator, I think we are doing our best. I believe we are still trying to do our best. But I also just want to take time off and appreciate everyone out there who takes time to actually do something or put something on the table that is actually going to help the diversity of young people. I was actually going to come to you, Lynette. But before you say what you want to say, Nicole and Ruth, and even Original, have spoken on organizations, or let us say activists or the government, various stakeholders actually responding to the actual needs of young people. Sometimes you mentioned that sometimes they're going to come up with projects and they're not benefiting the society, right? And I think one of the issues that this stems from is the level of inclusivity when they're coming up with these programs, when they're coming up with these projects. How much do you think young people are actually involved? Do you think we are included enough? Do you think that our voices are brought to the table in a way that they're actually heard, in a way that they're actually listened to, but also, there is a lot of tokenism and manipulation that goes on in organizations, in the government, that we're going to be invited for a meeting and you're going to sit and they're going to say that all young people have attended, and that's it. They'll let you speak, but they won't actually pick what you're going to speak and act on it. So, Lynette, I'm going to give you the floor to add to what you wanted to add to, but also while you're at it, I'd like to pick your mind. Do you think that young people are included in programs enough? Do you think we're still lacking?
Okay, thank you very much. So about that, I think some organizations have come up to include young people in decision making. Like down there in different health facilities, they are encouraging at least to include one young person on those committees which govern health facilities, which is very good because it's this person, the youth, who is going to go on and bring these different ideas of young people down there. And in addition to that, I request at least even the government should come in and get interest into the things young people are getting engaged in. And what I wanted to add on was about the SRHR challenges young people are facing in this pandemic.
Yeah.
Like in different communities, we find that the health facilities have youth corners. And these youth corners were of great hope because when the youth come to the facility, they go in those youth corners. At least during their play, indoor games, outdoor games, they get to interact with service providers, thereby bridging that gap. But right now, this pandemic, we find that most of these youth corners are being used for other things. Like you find that a youth corner is now turned into an OPD. So when the young persons come to the house, to the facility, they won't find it easy to access information, because young people, when they come and they find when the queue is very long, they get demoralized and they'll be like, I want to go back to that facility, which is very bad. And another challenge we are facing as young people, that at least some organizations like RSU have come up to train these service providers on youth-friendly services, which is very good. But the problem is some of these health personnel who are trained are being transferred to other health facilities, leaving the facility with no trained personnel under the youth-friendly services. So my request was, at least if even the government could come in, supporting the mentoring of these health personnel about the youth-friendly services, because this would help attract more youth to the facility. Thank you very much.
I hear you. You spark off a very interesting conversation of youth-friendly services. And I don't know if we speak a lot, but we actually don't act.
Yeah.
People do not comprehend what, and it gets frustrating for some of us who are actually passionate about this kind of stuff, where you feel like things are just being spoken of, but people don't actually comprehend the complexity of the certain things. For example, youth-friendly services. I mean, we all know for a service to be youth-friendly, it has to speak to the needs of a young person, It has to be accessible, equitable, what else? All those dynamics have to come into play, affordable as well. I want to pick your mind, Nicole. You're a young person who has done this for quite some time, because I believe you're young. I know you're a young person. But to see that you have the passion to drive the agenda of SRHR for young people also comes with advocating for a safe environment, a safe environment where they can actually have their rights upheld, but also at the same time get the information and the services as well. Where do you think we're standing following the outbreak of the pandemic? Are these services friendly, youth-friendly enough?
Thank you, Daisy. The truth is, the government and any other stakeholder that feels like this is actually something intriguing, there's something has to be done, because up to now, young people cannot go to the hospital to go and actually ask for the services, because the truth is, the mindset has not changed. Because I'm going to walk in, and when I see you, and you're trying to work on me, there's this other thing that is going to keep on running in her mind. She's like, this woman thinks I'm spoiled. You get? Yeah, but then even when I think about that, I think even into the medical facilities, we really still have to do that. I think it has to be included onto the medical courses that they're doing, because the people that have already been in the field, they're not taking it like easily and too easy, especially with people living with HIV. Yeah, they just look at them with this very judging eye. And trust me, when you look at a person living with HIV with a judging eye, forget them taking medicine ever again. What they're going to do, they're going to be like, now that she thinks I am spoiled, let me spoil the whole world. Let it die with me. So it's something that has to be brought up from this down a level when they're training them. Yeah, to a point that by the time they get into the field, it is part of them. And there something else. Let me intrigue you more.
Yeah.
Before the first lockdown, I was in BDBD refugee camp. But yes, the kind of signpost that welcomes you to that refugee camp, 9 out of 10 persons are living with HIV. That enough is something every single NGO, anyone from the government would actually be, alarmed about, and they're like, oh my God. And when you get into medical facilities, but there is something that people who have taken on the role to do that. That is not happening. We come to Kampala, we sit into exclusives like this, and we talk about it. But no one ever goes back there. Because I talked to a few of the young people there. I'm like, why do you people don't do this? They don't know what to do. Even when they come and find the testing kit there, they don't find a use for it. They don't. And even this other thing that when young girls in that camp get into their menstrual periods, if they do not go into sex trade to get a pack of pads, she has to isolate herself from the people and go into the bush for like a week. She's trying to get that blood out. By the time she comes back, she's there at night, she doesn't move. By the time she comes back, she might have got a UTI from that place. And then getting into a UTI, she's going to move a very long distance to look for cooking fuel. And she's going to be raped from there. Now on top of the UTI, she has been raped, she has a child. A lot of stuff keeps on piling. It keeps on accumulating. But then what hurts is we dedicated ourselves to fact-finding. Because the truth is, we have the data that someone, a stakeholder who wants to get on and help wants. But just because I am a youth and I am actually in vacation from 6 back, someone is going to be like, how can I take data from her? So it is something that it is a mindset that has not changed. The truth is, just like the weather minister said, we want to be included because what they are dealing with is the just like the national school policy. At this moment, I don't think if they do not adjust it to current problems, I do not think even when they want to flesh out anything, it's not going to be there. Because if you do not involve me, how am I going to tell you that lineage gets this kind of problem? If you do not involve Ruth, how are you going to know that young people living with HIV, this is how they are treated? Yeah. But the more people keep on wanting to do things their way, it keeps us out. We never, as young people, we never ever feel like we are the government. Because the national council is there, even the people to do things that we would feel like we are, part of are there. But just because we are not included, of course, they do not get included because whatever they give out is what they think we deserve. The truth is what they need. Yeah, those two things are different. Yeah, you might just give something you're like, let me give her this book. Because you think she deserves the book. But the truth is, she might not deserve the book. Yeah, she might deserve a cup of pie. So, yeah. So when we were there, we discovered that there was reduction, things happening. So as a young person, of course, I don't have the very big budget to make sure that all of that is done. But the only thing I did, and I would always be very happy for, was developing a skill of reusable parts. And that is a skill that is going to live with them. Most don't miss schooling as much as they used to those days. Yeah, so I really feel like we do a lot of teacher. We do learn working with the Lord and coaching the talk that it is just that. To a point that now some of those people, they are hostile. When you go there to like activity of reproductive health Uganda, most of them are just even want to come to come to be like they're going to come, they get pictures of us. After taking pictures of us, shall never get anything. So it is big, and they are frustrated, and yet we need to help them. So it is something that has to be really worked on, and has to be built on. Yeah, sorry, I just bring this to you. Obviously, because that is the conscious and work and thought about that, and I sent it to someone who I thought was very nothing has so we cannot break over the so therefore data I keep on going. Pinipanagara. Father, right? He owned doctor. And when we try to intervene, I try to find out what happened. Because under normal circumstances, people would say that guy is possessed. He told me, "Oh, you must take me what? That is your step." I'm like, "Yeah, if you are my brother, I will do the same thing because I have, put a lot of my money into this girl. I cannot let another man enjoy before I do. This is my money. Remember, this is a so, what is that? You realize that things are not funny anymore. And it's not a little different. There's a certain girl that has been talking to me. Just from back, a very good family. Everything is there. But the truth is, depression is one of actually the new things that have come. And I think 2 weeks ago, 3 girls from campus committed suicide. Not because they're not because they don't have money, but we need to cheer up a little things. I love the sessions we did in COVID that were being aired on TV, and they were more of trying to bridge the gap between the parents and the children. Yeah, they were really educative and they kind of addressed some of those things. I think that is one of the things everyone has to pick up because we do not know when COVID is going to end. And I don't think we should expect the former normal to come back. We have to live with the new normal. It's not going anywhere. So we need to get the parents, the community, the young people into a circle of one group that they can be able to kind of be in a uniform kind of thing. And I think, yeah, that might be something really helping at the moment because you cannot do everything in one day. After all, one doesn't do in one day also. But yeah, we really need to do that. Not standards are there. But then the stakeholders that would really help us with that. Those are the next things I do. And if they do it, you're going to have to deal with it. And when you do that, these other people who are actually having hope on you, they're going to be discouraged also. So yeah, that is what I think. We've not done enough.
I hear you, Nicole, and I really I appreciate the fact that you highlight so many issues. I think everything you speak on is pertinent and we should pay attention to. Before we continue with the conversation, a kind reminder that we are the third regional youth e-conference on sexual reproductive health, economic empowerment and environment, which is this year under the theme promoting youth innovations to transform food systems and human health amidst the COVID-19 pandemic. Please do follow the conversation on Twitter as well using the hashtag YouthDayUG and the hashtag RegionalYouthConf2. Would like to hear from you and know what your opinions are about the discussion we're having at this cafe, which is SRHR interventions amidst the pandemic. Taking it from where Nicole stopped, she spoke of needs, she spoke of issues to do with mental health. Young people have been committing suicide, and I'd like us to divert a bit from the conversation. I don't want to say divert because SRHR and mental health are part and parcel as well. I'd like to come to you, Ruth. As a peer educator, you've interfaced a number of, just like I said earlier, young people who are going through SRHR challenges. Do you think, in your expertise, in your experience, that mental health and SRHR are sort of being put on the table as much as they should? Because in a country like Uganda, where mental health is being shoved to the back a lot, do you think the conversation is there, even for us to say that we are activists, even for us to say that we are data? Do you think we are paying attention to mental health? Or do you think it still leaves a lot to be desired?
First and foremost, it's actually very hard for you not to pay attention to mental health, especially in this social media era where we have social media and cyberbullying. So it is very hard for you to ignore mental health, because in most cases people take out their thoughts, their mind, mostly suicide thoughts, and they share them on social media. So you cannot ignore that. And if you ask me, I feel like we're really doing a great job, because I'm sure a parent of 1965 was not hearing such conversations. A parent of 1950 did not know that they're actually supposed to talk to their children about menstrual hygiene, mental health. Let me give you an example. we have parents who have given birth to HIV positive children, and surprisingly they've never had even a conversation about with their children about why mommy, why was I born HIV positive. Our parents are not so bold enough to make this kind of communications. And also, to add to what Nicole said, you cannot really blame the fact that, you know, we just keep talking about these things. You know, you find adults talking, and nothing is still done, nothing is still yet done. They really don't know. They don't know how to tackle this kind of information. We were in the field doing that campaign of Mass Cut Wrap Up, where we were giving out condoms and sanitary pads, and I happened to have, you know, interfaced with a parent, and I was showing him how to use a condom right. And I also asked him that if you go back home, could you please teach your child and your son how to use a condom? And he was like, I can never do that. I can never ever do that. And I asked him why. And, you know, he kept saying, I shy away. I mean, how can I begin talking to my daughter about sex? How can I talk to my son about sex? Let them just do whatever they can do. So you can't also blame the parents. They don't know this information to begin with. Like, I was attending a Zoom session recently, and a teenager asked a question about rape. What other steps can I take after I have been raped? And an adult who is way older than me answered that question in the most wrong way. And I was forced to come out and, you know, rectify. I mean, you can't tell a person who has raped that, you know, pray about it, you know, seek counseling. There are steps that are supposed to be taken. You know, how do you handle a rape situation? But the adults, the ones we call mommy, daddy, uncle, they don't know this kind of information. We hear about singers, kojas. Well, in schools they've played a great role. When I was in high school, I remember they would bring a koja and a singer to talk to us about these things. But mostly they were talking about, you know, I don't know what's the word for okuchalidensko, to be particular. And for me, if you ask me, I think that's not important. It's really not important. It does not, I mean, it's like you're training a girl just to satisfy a man, which is wrong. How about you training a girl or a boy how to be a better, you know, husband, be a better wife, you know, learn these things and then be able to share them. Mental health is key, extremely key. I'm privileged to be one of the few young adults who can recognize when I am either having stress or anxiety or depression. I know so many people who would say that, but they don't know that that is anxiety. I'm not okay, I'm not in the mood to go to work. They don't know that that is depression, and they don't know how to deal with it. So yes, I feel like we are really, the conversation is really out there for mental campaigns, for mental health competition. If you win it, you go, you walk out with some airtime. So yes, the conversation is really out there. We have psychiatrists nowadays, we have therapists. Butayuka Hospital is doing good. I don't know if people have visited Butayuka Hospital, but it's the cleanest hospital I know, and they're really doing a great job. The numbers are overwhelming vis-a-vis the, you know, the psychiatrists and psychologists. So yeah, we are headed in a better direction. Like she said, Rome was not built in a day. Baby steps, we shall get there.
So I think there's still that information gap in the community. First, we think that these people who are well off, they have the information. Consider the other people who are down there. We give those people down the information, they have this. Even if you know that when we are giving us sexuality education, parents think that you actually trying to mislead their children, not knowing that there's that for them, like people trying, they have to know about their body changes. When a girl sees her menstruation, so this is not an issue. But when you tell a parent, let's give your child sexuality education, you think that you're trying to spoil it. And even we go ahead and think that these people in higher education, these people nursing school, the university, we think that they know information about this parent, which is not true. Even these people up there, they lack information.
Thank you so much again. And yeah, I totally agree with the information gap. there is also a generational gap because when you look at, I think we're still lacking when it comes to youth adult partnerships. You know, they're not as strong as we want them to be. Yet a youth adult partnership builds meaningful youth participation and meaningful youth engagement. And I think we still have a lot to do with that. Yes, original. I'd like to have you. When we were speaking before this conversation and we were texting on WhatsApp, some of the issues that you brought up is that young people living with disabilities need to be included in programs because you brought out a number of issues and you say that young people living with disabilities are not heard, they are not considered as much as they should be. So I want you to speak as a young person living with a disability. What do you think we can do to include the diversity of people, including young people living with HIV, including all the vulnerable people out there? What do you think we can do to include them all in programs? How can we scale up that gap?
Yeah, thank you very much. For us in disability movement, we have a singular, not a singular, not thinking for us, without for us. It is a meaningless. If you are planning something for me, without me planning with you, it is not a meaning. That will mean that if you want to solve without the problem, you should include that from the planning stage. Yeah. And most of the conversation, remember they are calling people with disability. Remember to involve them at the day when they are having like a workshop, like a conference director. For example, now we had a show at MTV, but the show at together, you know that even people with disabilities are working. But on that show, we lack a language interpreter. Even that, when you are planning, you included us, we would at least advise you to hire a sign language interpreter so that the other person who is deaf or youth can be following what is taking place. Thank you very much.
About nothing for us about. I mean, there is no way you're going to say going to plan over an issue and then not include us from the planning stage all the way through the evaluation phase, you know. So I agree with you. A kind reminder that please send your thoughts through Twitter using the hashtag YouthDayUG and the hashtag regional youth corporates too. I would like to hear from you. I would like to try to voice to the conversation that we're having right now. Okay, so I know this was not in plan. Speaking on food systems, you know, I'd like us to dig a little bit into the situation that we are all well aware of in our country, where majority of the population are youth, and majority of these youth are unemployed. You know, I want to speak like this, you know, just a little bit to highlight, just so we can find a way of channeling in the conversation. Linet, I'd like to come to you. You traveled all the way from Point to come to this conversation. Thank you for coming, by the way, if I don't say anything. Yeah. The conversation of like and young people not having employment. Do you think that the current situation we're having in the country with young people being unemployed, do you think they are partially to blame? I mean, I was in a planning meeting for the International Youth Day, and one of the conversations that came up was how they want to have young people and entrepreneurs who are involved in agriculture to actually go to state house and do exhibitions and see on what they're doing, you know, just to add to the economy of the country. So, as a young person, do you think that young people are partially to blame for not being employed?
Yeah, okay, thank you very much. About that, I think, yeah, they are partial. Because you find out that there are some opportunities down there. Like person when my friend that our brand had these things of people coming, learn hairstyling. But because people have this mentality of for me I'm a graduate, I can't come to the yeah, but there are some people like us who came and have gained a lot from such opportunities which come down there. But the only problem is, I think we as young people, we are trying to undermine different opportunities. Because even though I'm a graduate, I can go and do hairstyling and still be employed. But I think young people don't consider that. And another thing I think, if different government and different organizations come up and support this one, the young people down there who are willing and ready to acquire skills like tailoring, like what if government can come up and collect and start collecting groups of people, young girls who have broken to school, girls who are pregnant, who are considered as nuisance in the community. If they come up and start organizing those people like some ONGOs how they are doing, I think it will look very help and the employment of the youth would.
I think I agree with you because we're here to discuss the thing promoting youth interventions to transform food systems. And I think youth do have the power to transform these systems. Speaking of livelihoods, there are a lot of reasons, I would say, as to why the unemployment is low. Some of them because we youth are ignorant and we don't pay attention. We wonder why people that sit in an office and know that we do not take time off to actually interest ourselves in things that are actually practical and manual, let us say like agriculture. Because I think at a time like that, we're grappling with a pandemic like COVID-19 and everyone is home doing lockdown. If you had your garden in your home and you're doing subsistence farming or something on a small scale, the conversation wouldn't be as in-depth as it is today, where people are saying that young people are unemployed. That aside, I do believe there are other issues as well that lead to that. And I'd like to come to you, in your capacity, should I say experience as such, what is your point here when it comes to issues to do with managing their life? I feel like young people play a playing game as much as, yes, there are other conditions that come in and we are having organizations asking for like 10 years experience and we're not having a supportive environment for them. What's your thought to young people? What would you like to tell young people, especially now that we're discussing the issue of food systems, within this pandemic? How do you think we can move forward towards building better food systems? Even if it's not just about young people, well, generalize different stakeholders.
So I'm going to use Luganda because I feel like we've been in English for quite a while now. Yeah. When I look at my life, like 3 years ago, mulimu wengamba mbu senga amagezi genina kati. Today, I wish I had this knowledge. Emyaka nge esatu emabega, I would be far, extremely far. Naye eno knowledge sigifunye by sitting around working for A, B, C, being employed here, there. Amagezi genina ngafunye lwakubanga mbadde nzija nga nsinkana abantu abambulira, which in English would be mentors. I don't know how you'd call mentors in Luganda, but mbuliriddwa ba mentors. I've been through the mentorship class, and half the knowledge I have today is all because of the mentorship class. Nekindeta okuba nti ngamba, if tusobola okugamba students who have graduated from campus that olina okusooka n'okola internship for a year before you get a job, why can't we also tell them to go through mentorship before they go to the workplace? Because what we ebintu nga someone told me mbu senga while we are in school, for instance architecture which I did is about 5 years, senga ebbanga linamala nga ndi kusomero nga nsomero emyaka 5, senga I had another a place where I was doing internship or volunteering. By the time I graduate from my 5-year course, mbera nina experience ya myaka 5. Okimanyi ekyo? So which means that my CV is heavy enough for me to get a job in any office I want. The 6 years experiences I have as an engineer or an architect are not because I kept volunteering in different offices, working for different people, and there wasn't necessarily a monthly pay. Byali byakubatisa leero bakusasudde nkyati bakusasudde, but I kept humble nensigalayo because I wanted to learn. I wanted to learn on the job such that when I decide that I've stopped working for someone, nga nina knowledge emala to start up my own empire. So again, let's take this song of Government Etuyambe. Man, I'm tired of hearing that song. We need to fight on our own now. It is. I mean, I feel like that government, much as it should be involved in these, youth activities and youth engagement, it has enough on its plate. So let's not play the blame game. I have heard stories of omuvubuka yavudde mu kyalo yatunze ettaka okugula boda okujja mu kyalo really. And I know people nga anoonya ettaka kw'anaalimira asobole okukola ki okufuna sente. We are not thinking outside the box. These are, you're calling it should be food security, assurance that you have a meal. These things are possible. You just need to think outside the box. Today when I speak to a typical young adult who has probably graduated from campus, alina degree, alaba yaliwo basically. Bw'omugamba nti nno nina project, tugatte ebyenfuna, tugenda mu kyalo tulime tukole sente. Ajja kugamba nze alina degree banandaba batya nga ngenze mu kyalo okulima. And they forget there is a study that was done by the World Bank that was showing the rates of work to a school to work transition. Abaana abasomye bwe bafuluma essomero kifaanana kitya vis-a-vis the number of jobs out there. And it was shown that about 400,000 graduates leave the university every year to compete for only 80,000 jobs. 400,000 graduates to compete for 80,000 jobs. Zino report Jezi online. If you check these websites, and then you find that abavubuka tetumanyi ngeri yakweyisa ku mirimu, omulimu ogufunye, and then you're underestimating your boss. You are extremely big-headed, you don't know how to contain yourself at the workplace, and there are things that we call common sense that are not taught in schools. I left school nga simanyi kuandika CV. I have just learned the most current format of writing a CV. Today when people reach out with their CVs to me, osanga omuntu nga wandise CV nga format mfu ya myaka mingi emabega. And it's the first thing I comment on. I'm like, this CV is outdated. This format of CV is outdated. And somehow even the people we are giving the CV to do not know that those formats are outdated. They just receive them instead of showing them. That's why for me, I never meet someone and they say I do not challenge them. I'm not going to look at you making a mistake and I say, it's okay. It's okay. And I let you, rhyme with it. I need to correct you such that you can also correct for me the next person who will also correct the next person. So it's not just about how do you get the food. There are so many factors that can be considered. I have been thinking, how about the government legalizes mentorship? Nga tugamba abaana nti nogenda ku internship ogenda kufuna experience nti ettaffaali ndikutte bwe nditeeka ku gundi bimu ebifaanana ekya, things like that. My measurements zibeera zitya, but omwana talina character keeps you in the office. You can get the job because of your documents, but your character will keep you on the job. If you're not good, if you cannot adhere to some things, if you're not adding value to the office, at some point they are going to drop you, because all you do is wake up, come, go back home, wake up, come. You're not adding ideas to the company. And to make matters worse, your character is bad. But the issue of food security, to them kulima, honestly, because it's now the trending thing. Abavubuka bangi bali ku Twitter abalima bangi, and especially for those living with chronic diseases, because you need to have a balanced diet. And HIV because it's not the only illness we have. I mean, we need to think about farming. I know someone wapangisa walima, it's very small but wamala. It's a matter of how do you deal with your landlord or landlady. So yeah, some things are not really common sense, but we can learn from adults. That's why most of my friends are, married people, married men and women, because they've seen the world. They're going to teach you based on their experiences. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Yes, original. I'm very
Okay, thank you very much. Even if you ask youth with disability, we eat the food and we can play the best role in food system. But the problem starts from the beginning about land ownership. Most of us, we don't have land. Even when our parents produce us, even my parents, even I'm from a family, and my father produced 87 children. You can say that I have 6 kids. I have 6 children, but I only disabled. That means that most of them, whenever they are inheriting the property, they think children with disability, that for you don't want to learn. Learn for what? Yeah, like the ownership of land in the most cases is a big challenge. Yeah.
I hear you, original, and I want to say that the conversation of land is a bit rather complex. And I think we could go on all day if we open up that
Yeah,
Yeah.
very
conversation.
true.
It's very, in depth and has a lot of nitty-gritties here and there, which I mean, conversations always happen. Hopefully, one day we can indulge in that discussion. Yes, Nicole, I would like to know, do you want to add anything to the conversation of food systems and food security, which is part and parcel of the theme for the International Youth Day this year?
Yeah, of course, there's no way I cannot add to that. After all, I come from a family where the one man, Michigan man who raised me is a farmer. He has won awards of being the best farmer all over Uganda like 3 times, and he has gone abroad just because of that. From systematically my childhood, of course, I always thought of farming, agriculture as the first thing for my life because I love food, but I never grow fat. But that's it. So yeah, actually, I don't know why we are thinking about agriculture right now. This is something we should have thought about, from the very very beginning. Because when I talk to elder people now, like my grandfather, I asked him, how did you even develop the love of wanting to be a farmer? He told me, I don't know what is happening to the generations you people are living now, because for them, the UPE schools they studied from, there was on the timetable there would be a day when it is going to be full day in the garden. On top of their UPE tuition, they would send them for maize, they would send them for beans, and they would plant those things themselves. When time for harvesting comes, they would go and harvest, put them in the store, they would eat. It kept on going, and it kept on making them feel the vibe of however much we have to study and get all these, kind of papers and what. Farming is not a job, by the way. See, that is one thing I know. When you wake up and someone tells you that farming is a job, to me it just looks funny. Farming is a lifestyle because you cannot live without food.
Yeah.
However small it can be, something basic is okay. But then when we start getting the numbers of people that have been dying because of hunger due to lockdown, of course it has to take us back to the roots of what happened. What happened to the curriculum? I think I should ask this Mr. Dong. What happened? Because it used to be there until study curriculum. And then I'm privileged to be from one of actually the most expensive schools in Uganda, Ghana International School. It's a school which has 2 curriculums. It has UNED and it has
Cambridge.
This is a curriculum for the British countries. But then when you look at onto those 2 curriculums, they're very different. Ask me how and why. Our curriculum is very, very theoretical. You're going to study even things you will never use in your life. But in Cambridge, You only study what you are good at. And what you are good at, the only reason as to why you're studying that is you have to, they are making you better at it. So by the time you finish up, because for them, their terms actually, they always have only 2 terms in there. So that's why they get to finish school earlier. Now you find out a kid who is 15 years is already doing something they are good at. But then you look at us who have studied 11. I, for one, 7 years down the road, tell me to do something and I don't even know where to start from. So yeah, it is one thing that has happened over time, and I think it has affected Ugandans so much. To an extent that there is a girl who can even finish university and she doesn't even know how to wash her clothes. Okay, we are too much onto the Lugambo and the
PSM.
and I don't know, it's too much that we always that we always forget about that. And of course, what happens when a lesbian kid now like me who was in such a school, I come out? Of course, I'm going to think the luxury I've just had in school of class value sawa. Of course, this is the kind of life I'm going to think about. Because I feel like I have passed with this bird up there. I'm supposed to sit in an office. No one has to send me onto that room. Well, you get it? But then it's not, that is wrong. Because ideally, why do you think whites are actually there? Because they always want to find out what is your opportunity, what is your kind of talent, what are you good at? And that is what they devote. But then for us, we spend a lot of time being wise. That is it. You spend a lot of time being wise, but then you actually end up not even using that much wisdom you have got, which is one of the problems that we are having with young people. Because ideally, as Ruth said, if I was given this kind of mentorship and those coaching classes when I was in school, what would prompt me to sell my own land, to buy a border, to come onto Kampala roads and get knocked like a dog? You get? So yeah, it just doesn't usually add up. And at some point, one of the other problems that youth are having these days, they fear engagement. Because ideally now, like me, why would I even be into such a talk at this time? This is the time when I'm supposed to be like, girl, I am on vacation, I am going to, but no, I don't do that. So when we do not have champions of change like us, of course the world is going to always think, because they look at you as a boring person, but they just don't want to listen to the fact that we are, giving them the message. And actually, from a scholar, I was on a scholarship called the Mastercard Scholar at work. But one thing that a Mastercard was doing, it was more of they wanted to induce me into a kind of curriculum that is kind of formal, because every single time they would come and pay school fees, they would always give you either the CDs or the books that are having life skill, kind of stuff. So it would be easier, because right now the biggest percentage of young people we are having are young people that are not they are not proactive at all, because for them they think just because I have graduated with this and this kind of degree, I'm supposed to sit in an office. What office are you going to sit in? All the offices are already having people working there. Young people don't want to think about creating their own vibe of that. And that is the one actually problem I always have with every single person I talk about. Me, honestly, I'll tell you the truth. I am creative in ways I can't even understand. I'm an actress, I'm a fashionista, I can do, and I can live, I can farm. So it is just in a diverse of that young people have failed to recognize who they are, where they come from, and which stand are they supposed to take. But then even when they don't do that, now it just keeps on hurting me. Now, for example, the young people that died during the rioting time, I felt so bad when kids actually started dying. But then I asked myself, why are they by here? And someone just answered my question very quickly. They are idle. And you know how young people can be. They have a lot of energy. They have
You
a
don't
lot
have
of
what to
time,
use it for.
and they just use it like that. What
Oh, I don't know.
Which is supposed to be, it's not supposed to be like that. If all of them had something they were, doing, I don't think they would actually be rioting and trying to provoke, police. Because ideally, this is something that has happened. Because yes, the truth is, some people are idle just because they want to live life or this other laissez-faire way. I was talking to a certain girl. She's like, Nicole, where you are, you're doing so well. Just because she didn't want to go back to school, and she was in senior too, because she was thinking of taking on a celebrity life. I just gave her an assumption. I'm like, now you see our principal. She's like, yeah. Why would you think of sitting in our principal's office at your age? I'm like, me. At 19, I have even not thought of sitting in his office. Why do you think so? So where does that get us back to? Media. Social media. Young people have failed to use social media the way they are supposed to. Because there is a lot good energy that is there. But then the problem is young people don't want to pay attention to good energy. They always want to pay attention to the bad energy. Yeah. So you find a girl, the only thing she's telling you is I am living, keep up with the Kardashians. Now that is the only thing that is in her head. Mind you, the time you're going to actually get her back to track, you really need a lot. She's the same very girl I've been talking to for quite a number of days when the mother tells her to, try to look into her books. If things go well and they go back to school, she will go to school. She's like, I don't want to go to school. I want to go to school. There's a lot. We are doing the SRH under more of the mental health. We need to, even schools need to pick it on, especially the curriculum. It needs to be picked on because young people come from different homes, different problems, and there's no way they are just going to just throw them to the wall. Because most of the teachers actually, we had an issue when candidates were told to go back to school. Some of the young people that were pregnant, they had issues with the senior women teachers and who had not been, induced into living with them. So it was more of these kids want to just drop out because they feel like they don't belong anywhere. They are being isolated, they're being finger pointed, and it was too much. But then some of the schools they're trying to pick up that art of we handle young people the way they have come. But then of course it just doesn't start from only now knowing it. We have to get the parents on board. The parents have to really come on board because ideally we would spend 90% of our living time in a institution of learning. But now it looks like for a year or two it has actually changed. And now that it has changed, are we supposed to sit and mourn because it has changed? No. Let us continue. Let us continue whereby parents have to be brought on board and they have to be told them. And they're like, hey, you have to take in the fact that people are already having sexual intercourse. The sexual activity is already going on. But just because you look at your daughter as a baby, doesn't mean she doesn't know anything.
I know.
It doesn't mean that she doesn't know. She's not way a lot. Yeah. And when you don't tell her, she's going to keep on wanting to find this information in the wrong way. When she keeps wanting to find out what it is, she's going to keep on messing up. So that is the one thing we are actually fighting so much. I am really, really glad that, after the week of the second lockdown, many youth has kind of cheered up onto what is happening. So yeah, we actually have to get those men on board because you don't wake up one day and you tell me because I paid for her school fees, no one is supposed to feast on her before I do that. That is wrong. So there's a lot that has to be done from very many sectors of life. And I actually love what is being done. Rachel Hand is having a peer academy, and even a reproductive health is doing with them. We need to develop a kind of strategy of young people that whatever comes, young people are supposed to stand in for young people. Because I, for one, if I stand in front of young people and I stand in front with Ruth, and we or Lynette or somebody, and we are talking to these young people about something, it is easy for them to pick it from me because it is relatable.
Coming from the horse's mouth.
Kind of an engagement of ours, then that means we are able to connect with them. So I think those are some of the things that the government is supposed to do. And more of keeping that into a classroom is actually wrong. Because what? Now this is when I keep on asking myself, what happened? Because those days when we were aspiring to get into high school, when we are like in P2, we would kind of surface things like creative work happening. Young people would, in high school and in upper primary, being taught how to knit, how to make some other kind of stuff. Those are some of the, because believe it or not everyone is meant for school. Some people are meant for the big brains of creativity. But then if you actually want to keep me in a classroom, and I am only good at theory, I'm going to miss out on the other part of my life because I'm going to be a nerd. And when you are, information nerd, most of the time the world is not required. It just hits you because you have a lot of information and it's not used anywhere. And yeah, it just keeps on coming back, and it brings us back to the food security. If we as the young people cannot put our ego down and actually go back, help into the food production, forget about food security. Because the percentage of the people doing the food and agriculture, the biggest percentage is of the elderly people. And remember, we are way too much more than them. So what they produce is small. But if young people would actually also join in and help them produce, we would be showering in food. But just because young people want to, I don't know what is the kind of thing with Kampala. Every young person who's growing up, when they finish senior 6, when they finish senior 4, the only dream they have is Kampala. They actually don't know what is happening here. And the question I would actually pose to you as a person to reflect on is that what should be done for these kids to actually stay where they are? Because Kampala is already full. We need to keep them where they are. They can get anything they want as long as they work so hard for it. They can get the information because ideally we are here to do that. We dedicated ourselves to be, as a resource for the world. And there isn't a need for them to do that. They have to stay where they are because the people to give them all the information, they're there. Yes, so that's what I said.
Thank you so much, Nicole. And I think you have spoken on a number of issues. I think you've spoken on a lot of what we were going to dive right into. But since we're running out of time, I just want to give each person maybe a minute or less to just draw your call to action to whoever you're drawing it to. It could be to the young people, it could be to the government who are the duty bearers, it could be to the religious, the cultural leaders. Draw your call to action. We're discussing food systems, food security, and human health. What do you think? What needs to be done? Where do we go from here? Yes, we are having continuous discussion, but what's going to drive our next discussion? What's going to drive the next agenda? Where do we go from here? I'll start with you, Lynette. Yes, in a minute or less, just give your conclusionary remarks and draw your call to action.
Okay, thank you very much. So my call to action is asking at least all the duty bearers, the children makers, to come and consider making health facilities youth friendly. At least let every facility have a youth corner with indoor and outdoor games so that gap between the health personnel and the youth can be bridged. And even I'm urging the youth to stop undermining these little things. They undermine these hands-on skills. Even though you have your degree in something, but it's good to also add that hands-on too, because right now very many people are unemployed. I'm also requesting at least if sexuality education with economic staff to be also integrated in all schools, in primary schools, secondary schools, even universities, and these institutions. It will be very nice.
And I think a number of organizations are trying to take that on. SRHR empowerment alongside economic empowerment, just so we can give the young people information about how to take care of their health, how to stand up for their sexual reproductive health and rights, but at the same time, empower them to sort of take charge of their livelihoods, take charge of their lives, such that they can be able to sort of, you know, be able to take charge of their lives in a way that they're able to address some of the challenges that they go through when it comes to their welfare in line with the economy. Thank you so much, Lynette. Yes, original. In less than a minute, your call to action.
Aga my call to action. Go to 3 to 4 different categories. Number one, go to the youth with disabilities. They must wake up and start being active and work for themselves. They say that to help you, they cannot help you whenever you are not doing anything. It is the product now in the Bible. When Jesus was going to make a miracle of feeding 5,000 people, the first question, what do you have? They said that they need to five loaves of bread and 2 fish. Then you start from there. You bring your potential so that other people can help you to give you the letters to develop it. That one goes to you with disability. The second thing, go to the youth. That if youth can come out and help this youth with disability in creating a friendly environment, that one can help them, can help them. They say that if the friendly environment is stable for youth with disability, it is stable for all. The living example from there up, from here down up to there. It is I have seen some of you. It is very hard of climbing ladders. Then climbing there. Here, a youth with disability can on the wheelchair, he cannot pass. But there, he can pass. If the environment is smooth for me, person with disability, it is smooth for you all. Then the third person is the parent. Let's empower our youth with disability so that they can realize they can in the future be self-reliant and you know what, they can be the one helping you in the future. Then the last person is the duty bearer. They implement whenever they are doing the implementation action, let it be inclusive to all people. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Original. And I hear you, and I believe everyone who's watching us hears you as well and takes what you're saying to heart. Yes, Ruth, in less than a minute, just draw your call to action in regards to everything we've discussed.
My call to action would be about maybe 3 or 5 things. First, the parents, we have the teachers, and then the nurses. So we have, the SRH centers, the hospitals, the clinics. Some young adults find it really hard to access SRH services because of the attitude they receive from the clinics or the hospitals, from the nurses, For instance, I go there and I probably want to get an IUD inserted, get a family planning method. And the nurse would probably say, at your age, why? What are you doing? Why are you immoral? So we need to also, much as we are doing the peer-to-peer, we also need to do, to train the medical team that receives us when we go to those centers. The parents don't know this information. They shy away from talking about it. We need to involve them on this talk. I have not heard of a conference where they ask parents to come and, they give them this kind of information. They are too busy with their lives, chasing money here, there, but they even miss out on their first day of their children, getting into menstrual, having their first menstrual period. So we need to also do that. The teachers could be also a great, they could be great advocates, if we train them on what to say, when to say it, and what not to say. They could be great advocates to these students in schools, because most of these students seated at home now, they are doing nothing and they are not receiving sexual reproductive health information. However, if they were at school, they would be receiving this kind of information. Then the young adults who are watching us, the youth, abavubuka bali mu vac, you spend so much time following celebrities on social media. These people have their lives set out. These people have bought land, they have businesses, they are driving themselves. Ng'oguze data wanusu bitaano ne OTT akulema okusasula. Oli kuli ostalkinga gundi muyimbi, you want to know what they are doing, and then there are people who are commenting negatively, abusing but they don't have a life. Obudde bw'omala ng'oweewola data ow'ebitaano just to be online. Try following, our pages, our social media pages, to get this kind of information. And akatale keka, in case you are in need of sexual reproductive health rights and you do not have data but you have a phone, you can just dial *284*15#. That is a USSD code for Reach a Hand Uganda. You will access any kind of information. And also, if you have a smartphone, you can download the Sauti Plus app to be able to speak to the Sauti Senga. It will be a very private conversation and you'll get all the kind of help you need. So, tofira mu filimu yo, don't die alone in the movie. You're not alone in this, and we are here to help you. Reach out to us via social media. Tuberako, we are doing this humanitarian work. Just reach out. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ruth. And I think this is a lovely way to conclude the discussion, the conversation. I mean, we've spoken on a number of issues, and all of them are pertinent to the well-being of young people. And I think, yeah, it's about us taking charge of our lives, but at the same time, the people who are responsible to sort of create that supportive environment where we can be able to have our rights fulfilled, but at the same time where we can be able to showcase our creativity and our talents in ways beyond, that we can explain. To everyone who has tuned in via YouTube, thank you so much for taking time. Thank you so much for being patient with us. Thank you for following the conversation via Twitter. And we hope that your thoughts and your suggestions on the issue can still come through. I think we've said it all. To the panelists, thank you so much for taking time off. It's always lovely to interact with new faces, with new young people. And I hope we'll have more of these discussions in the future, right? Yeah. To everyone who has tuned in, once again, we thank you and have a lovely afternoon.
Guys, first way to take a photo. Ananga kasana.
Group photo.
Group photo. I almost stood up from the heat. My goodness.